Well, hi. What? What? Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Hold it. What is this nonsense? I hear a microphone going off in the background. Good grief. Just stop it. Good grief. That intro was lined up to be one of the best I ever did. And what happens? I have a technical difficulty. Anyway, hi. Hello. And how are you doing out there in internet land? My name is Brian Trippett. I am the Front Porch Conservative. Welcome to the Wednesday evening. That another stop it, go. Good grief. I've got gremlins all over the place. Anyway, hi. Let's try it again. Take three. Hi, hello, and how you doing out there in internet land? My name is Brian Trippett. I am the Front Porch Conservative, and welcome to the Wednesday night newsroom, that fun little gathering where we get together, we talk about the news, we give our views, and we try to make sense out of this crazy thing that we call life. My name is Brian Trippett. I am the Front Porch Conservative. I am sometimes known as the bro with the chapeau, so says Mr. Kawan. I am sometimes known as the fine fella with the fedora. On occasion, I'm called the common man with common sense, but in this moment, as always, I am your host. We are on Rumble, we are on Twitter, and we are on that quaint little alternative social media platform known as YouTube. So if you would not mind, please do me some favors as always. Number one, if you're not subscribed to this channel, please go ahead and do so. Number two, please make sure that you are hitting the bell for notifications. We want to make sure that you are always aware when new material is coming out, be it a video or a live stream. And I think videos are going to be back in my wheelhouse in the near future. Also, please share the link around with your friends. Also, please hit the thumbs up button. It would always, and leave a comment. Yes, indeed, my dearly beloved, we are gathered here to get through this thing called life. Bum, 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 bum. Yeah, anyway, if you know, you know. Anyway, glad to have all you guys here tonight. Welcome to the Wednesday night newsroom. A whole lot of stuff going on to talk about. And I'm very interested to get your guys' take on it. We've got it's something of a lighter fare this evening. Don't get me wrong. Do I pluck my eye? No, sir, I do not pluck my eyebrows. I do not pluck my eyebrows at all. Not in the slightest. No. But thank you for asking. I appreciate the fact you noticed that I am a well-groomed man. Anyway, glad to have you guys here tonight. We've got a sort of a lighter fare this evening, although there are some serious topics to be talked about. We're going to try and mix it up a little bit for you guys. And as always, let's see who's in the house so far. We know Kawan is here. Miss Gypsy is here tonight, Wednesday evening on the Front Porch in August with Fedora Nation is what I live for. Well, mwah to you. Glad you live for that. And darling, we know that we are happy as always to see you whenever you are able to swing by. Miss Lana's in the house tonight. Mwah. Good evening, my darling. Mr. Kawan has been heard from. All right, let's see who's over there on Rumble. All the wing nuts are out. God help us all. WWG1's been dropping the memes already, my man. Oh, my goodness. He's dropping the memes. And let's see. Who else is here? TBA is in the house. Good evening, Porchies. I am here for the memes. What? TBA says, aren't we going to talk about Trump destroying the DC Dems? We're going to get into that. We are going to get into that, my friends. So don't worry. That is one of the soup du jours of the evening, my good sir. I promise you. Oh, goodness me. So glad to have you guys here tonight. Now, TBA said that he is here for the memes, although I have a hard time believing that's his only reason for being here. I mean, after all, where else can you go and get this much scintillating conversation from a man so good looking? Anyway, he says with such humility. Anyhow, all right, we got a bunch of things going on. We got a bunch of things to talk about, and we will jump right in to the merry memes section of the show. Now, let's be honest about it. These days, no, wait a minute. Now, hold on a second. I've got to hang on. What is it? WWG1 says, I'm here for Brian's hat. He promised to mail it to me. Sir, I made no such promise. However, I will be happy to go hat shopping with you sometime if you and Mrs. WWG1 wish to go and do so. I will be happy to hat shop with you, sir. I've got it. You wax. What? What is it? What is this fascination with my eyebrows, for heaven's sakes? Oh, my word. I am, good grief. I love you, brother, but yeah, what are you going to do? I don't know what to tell you here. I don't know what to tell you. Anyhow. All right, let's get down to business, gang. Brian owes me TBA. Oh, well, okay, we'll deal with that later. Anyhow. Oh, let me have a sip of tea to give me strength. Anyhow, all right. In this day and age, it is very hard to make it. I mean, everybody knows this. Everybody's got problems of one kind or another. And we're always looking for good advice. Well, I think I've come across someone who I can honestly say should be listened to when it comes to giving advice on financial matters. No, it's not Dave Ramsey. No, it's not Susie Orman. No, it's not any of the normal folks that you might think. This individual has totally taken the financial advice scene by storm. And I tell you what, given this one's resume, I would definitely be looking to this one for good, solid tips on what to do with your money. I mean, after all, was homeless, hunting for meals out there in the streets, now 2 passive incomes, their own house, their own chef. Yeah, I'd be following this one for financial advice. I absolutely would. So folks, I mean, look, I'll let you do the research on your own to find out, rates and how to get in contact and the name of the organization. But, with a face that famous, it will not be hard to find out how to get in contact with them on the internet. I mean, I'm not saying, but I am just saying. There you go. Oh my goodness. What else is going on out there in the way of the the cat's attitude is he's being worshipped as is his right. I've got an expression that I will use in moments like this. When you have a dog, you have a friend. When you have a cat, you have an employer. And y'all that have pets of your own, do not tell me I'm that far from the truth. Y'all know I'm right. When you got a dog, you got a friend. When you got a cat, you have an employer. TBA over on Rumble says, cats rule, dogs drool. Well, you might be right. TBA also says, when you have a cat, you have an owner. You boy, see, even the wingnuts on Rumble recognize the fact that I'm right. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Yeah. See, y'all that are watching this live stream or will be watching this live stream, soak this stuff up. You do not get this kind of wisdom on any other channel. That's all I'm telling you. Oh, goodness me. What else is going on in the way of the merry memes out there? I think a lot of times liberal pundits get too bad of a rap. I love this. That is, brother, that is so true. That is so true. Write this one down, folks. Clip it. This right here. Clip it. He's right. Anyway, liberal pundits tend to get a very bad rap a lot of times. People think that they don't really understand what it is. I disagree with that. I think that on some subjects, they are absolutely brilliant. I mean, for example, look, just because they may not know the difference between a man and a woman, but when it comes to being economics or what have you, man, I don't see why liberals aren't listened to. I mean, seriously. I don't get it. I really just don't get it. I think sometimes political liberals of varying stripes are totally underestimated for the amount of expertise that they have on certain subjects. Why they're not listened to more? I have no idea. It seems to me simply an absolute crying shame. Here got detained. No, dear, we love you. You're good. Don't worry about it. It's all good. All good. Yeah, I mean, seriously, honest. Now think about it, folks. If you were getting advice from an individual like this, an honestly well-balanced political liberal, why in God's name would you not listen to this individual? I ask you. Seriously? Seriously. Goodness me. Goodness me. All right. Now, you guys have heard, obviously, about what Trump is doing in Washington, D.C. right now, right? Well, the mayor is coming out and taking a new position. She's actually opposed to what Trump is doing, believe it or not. At first, we thought she was going to be in favor of it. It would help clean up the streets, alleviate some of her problems, etc. But apparently she's now against what Trump is doing, and for very simple reasons. I mean, the headline really says it all. She warns that the crime-fighting measures will unfairly impact criminals. Who knew? So yes, the mayor of D.C., Muriel Bowser, is now opposed to what Donald Trump is doing in the area of crime reduction in our nation's capital. Anyway, now we've got another meme that we're going to show you a little bit later on, but we'll save that one. So for right now, I want to thank WWG1 as always, and I hope you guys got a kick out of those as much as I did. So let's get into our first subject of the night, and TBA sort of alluded to it earlier. Trump and Washington, D.C. And I'm not going to lie to you guys. I've got mixed feelings about this. I really do. But it might not be for the reasons that you think. Let's be honest about it. Crime right now, depending on what city you're talking about in the United States, especially in major populated urban areas, is really getting out of hand. Now, I say getting out of hand. You can make an argument it's been out of hand for quite a few years. And I also think part of this is a matter of perspective, okay? I mean, for example, let's just take Cincinnati as a recent example. You had all those videos that went viral. And yeah, there's a lot of things about the Cincinnati situation that can be legitimately talked about. I'm not trying to let anybody off the hook here for what did or did not happen, or let anybody be able to shirk their responsibility for what they did or did not do in those moments, okay? Be it the police or the individuals involved. But when I say it's a matter of perspective, keep this in mind. One act of criminality does not, or more to the point, should not, tar and feather every person in a major metropolitan area, okay? For example, I don't think anyone would dispute the idea that there is a lot of crime in New York City. Does that mean that every person in New York City is a criminal or potentially a criminal? Well, no. There are a lot of good people living in New York City that simply want to live their lives, make a living, raise their families, enjoy barbecues on the weekends, watch Yankees games or Mets games or whatever sporting event it is. I mean, they're just trying to live their lives, okay? Same thing with the people in Cincinnati, same thing with the people in St. Louis or Chicago or any other major city, okay? But the crime is making it more and more difficult to do that sort of thing. And I suppose you can make the argument that the nation's capital, Washington, D.C., because of its visibility, is the one place that if you are going to try and do something about this, you got to take a stand. If you're going to take a stand somewhere, D.C. is probably a good place to start. Because if you can't get it controlled at the national level, how are you going to control at the city level? But again, I've got mixed feelings about that too, and I'll get to that in a moment. So recently, I mean, there have been reports. I mean, for example, we talked about on Front Porch Brunch on Saturday. The young man who goes by the nickname Big Balls was assaulted for trying to prevent the young lady that he was, out on the town with, trying to prevent her from being carjacked by a roving gang of juveniles, some 15 to 20 of them, and he was beaten bloody. Well, and that's just one example of what's been going on in DC. Okay, well, finally, it's reached the point that steps have been taken, but the steps that have been taken, I'm not going to lie to you guys, the steps that have been taken absolutely break my heart. Now, I know some of y'all sitting out there going, what do you mean breaks your heart? Donald Trump's out there kicking ass, man. He's taking names. Yeah, but that's the point. It's gotten so bad in terms of municipal mismanagement by the current government. No. Hold on. Hang on, Kawan. I'm with you on this one. But let me get this out, and then you'll get a better idea where I'm going here. It's reached the point that a municipality like Washington, D.C., which again has its own unique governmental structure, okay? It's reached the point that the municipality of Washington, D.C. has been so badly mismanaged that people at the federal level are willing to step in because the local government either cannot or will not get it under control. And this is one of the things that genuinely makes me sad. Okay? It really does. When we've reached the point that those in federal power are willing to go to these lengths to try to resolve the problem, it breaks the heart. TBA over on Rumble says municipal, quote, mismanagement isn't what's going on. It's a feature of municipality that's under Democrat rule. Okay, we can quibble about the terminology. All right. But anyway, I'll come back to that thought. TBA also says, remember that every local government servant swears an oath to uphold the U.S. Constitution. Okay, I don't dispute any of that. And finishes that thought with, so when they don't, they need to be spanked. Trump is doing the spanking. Yeah, but where are we going here? I mean, look, have presidents called out the National Guard before in cities across this country? Yes. I mean, for example, the Rodney King riots of the early 90s. George Herbert Walker Bush deployed the National Guard to bring the city back under control because LA was burning. Okay. Eisenhower deployed the National Guard in Little Rock, Arkansas, so, African American kids could go to school. Okay. We could sit here and tick off the examples, but this one just feels different. Okay. This one just feels different because now we're deploying the National Guard to resolve a local crime problem. I mean, look, and if I'm wrong, you guys tell me, okay? If I'm wrong, we will agree to disagree, but that's what I feel about this. Muriel Bowser, the mayor of D.C., and the police chief, whatever her name is, either by their own choices or their own ineptitude, have let D.C. get so bad that the federal government, which happens to reside in the municipality of Washington, D.C., is now employing the National Guard to deal with local crime problems. Well, yeah. I mean, dude, passe comitatte. Yeah, passe comitatte. The laws passed after the American Civil War in the 1800s prevent the federal government from being involved in civilian police action. No, I'm not necessarily. I'm not saying we should be going Gestapo. I think, and here's a great reason why. Why not see what's wrong with state police departments? And that's a great point. Look, let's take DC out of this for just 1 second, okay? And we'll get to the articles that I've got lined up to talk about this here in a minute. But let's take DC out of this, and let's say Chicago. There's a really good example. Everybody knows there's a crime problem in Chicago, okay? To the point that businesses are leaving the downtown. Curfews are being imposed at night, depending on what part of the year you're talking about. And the mayor will do nothing. Which begs the next question, why is the Illinois State Police not doing something about it? Yeah, I mean, this is, I'm not going to lie, this is bugging me too. I don't like this. I don't at all. Now, TBA over on Rumble's making the argument, where we are going is in the direction of a national capital that is not under the control of an elite Democrat party. No, he's not resolving a local crime problem. He's taking control of a city that was under control of the deep state. I think Trump invoked the Insurrection Act of 1807. When local governments do not uphold the Constitution, they are making insurrection against the Constitution. So Trump is handling an insurrection. Really? So for the fact that they are not addressing the problems of crime, we're going to call that an insurrection? I mean, and again, I am not trying to get into an argument with anybody here, but let's take this to a logical conclusion. So not dealing with a crime problem in a way that the voters think is appropriate, we're not prepared to call that an insurrection against the government of the United States. I mean, dude, I love you, but that's a stretch. I'm sorry. I mean, that's a real stretch, at least to me. Because and TBA goes on, because they are not upholding the policing of their area, they are violating Earth. Okay, fair enough. But let the voters of that city deal with it. I mean, I don't like what's going on in Washington, D.C. in terms of the crime either. Okay. But this is just, yep. Good point. Good point. Anyway, let's get to the article that kicks off our discussion on this from the BBC. Headline: Trump deploys National Guard to Washington, D.C. and pledges crime crackdown. Article by Anna Fagai. Oh, I'm so glad I pronounced that carefully. Anyway, President Donald Trump said he was deploying the National Guard to Washington, D.C. and taking control of the city's police force as he pledged to crack down on crime and homelessness in the city. Trump declared a public safety emergency on Monday, deploying 800 National Guard troops to bolster hundreds of federal law enforcement officers that were deployed over the weekend. Quote, "It's becoming a situation of complete and total lawlessness," he told reporters in the White House on Monday. The city's mayor, Muriel Bowser, has rejected the president's claims about crime. While there was a spike in 2023, statistics show that it has fallen since then. Violent crime in the city is also at a 30-year low. Quote, "I'm announcing a historic action to rescue our nation's capital from crime, bloodshed, bedlam, and squalor and worse," Trump said in a news conference in which he was flanked by U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi, who will lead the city's police force while it is under federal control. "This is Liberation Day for D.C., and we're going to take our capital back," Trump said. Trump went on to say Washington, D.C. have been, quote, "taken over by violent gangs and bloodthirsty criminals, as well as drugged out maniacs and homeless people," end of quote. According to data from the city's Metropolitan Police Department, homicides dropped by 32% between 2023 and 2024 and reached their lowest level since 2019. There has been another substantial drop this year of 12%, the data shows. Now, hold up there a minute. Hold up there, coaches. I'm not so sure that I'm ready to believe that stuff about, the crime being lower than what it actually is. And there's a reason why I say that. And it's not just me being a normal contrarian. I got a story here from NBC News Channel 4 in Washington, D.C. If the crime's down in that city, you're going to have a hard time proving it by me, especially on the basis of what I'm about to show you next. Check this out, ladies and gentlemen. From NBC News, Washington, D.C., headline, D.C. police commander suspended, accused of changing crime statistics. Police union says directive to change offensive classifications comes from command staff. This is a story by Paul Wagner, who's a local reporter in Washington, D.C., and this was about a month ago. Okay, check this out. A police commander is under investigation for making changes to crime statistics in his district. The Metropolitan Police Department confirmed that Michael Pulliam was placed on paid administrative leave in mid-May. Hang on a second. Excuse me. That happened just a week after Pulliam filed an equal employment opportunity complaint against an assistant chief, and the police union accused the department of deliberately falsifying crime data, according to three law enforcement sources familiar with the complaint. The union claims police supervisors in the department manipulate crime data to make it appear that violent crime has fallen considerably compared to last year. Pulliam, the former commander of the 3rd District that patrols Adams, Morgan, and Columbia Heights, was placed on leave with pay and told he is under investigation for questionable changes to crime data, 5 law enforcement sources familiar with the investigation told News 4. That came about a week after he filed a complaint against Executive Assistant Chief of Police Andre Wright, according to 3 law enforcement sources familiar with the complaint. News 4 reached out to Pulliam for comment. He denied the allegations against him and referred us to the public information officer. So, you begin to understand my skepticism here, folks. Okay? And you got Muriel Bowser on one side over here saying, oh, crime's a low level here. About a month ago, you have a commander getting suspended from, accused of manipulating crime data. So, who am I supposed to believe here? I got a feeling that if I were a resident of Washington, D.C., that it's kind of like, the great old joke, woman comes home to find her husband in bed with another woman, and the husband says, now, honey, are you going to believe what I tell you or what you see with your lying eyes? I got a feeling that if I were a resident of Washington, D.C., I'd be believing what I see with my lying eyes. Now, okay, so let me put this up for a clarification. All state police departments have been crippled. Please tell me what happens after the National Guard leaves D.C. or any other city when I figure out the root problems. Good point. That's a great point. Absolutely great point. I don't disagree with that at all. TBA over on Rumble says, gee, the police lie about crime statistics? I'm shocked. Not. Yeah, see what you're saying. But yeah, it's to the point that the federal government is taking over the DC police for about a 30-day period, and we're gonna federalize a strike force. This is heartbreaking to me on so many levels. And again, I'm not trying to be, a willy-nilly. You guys know my basic stand. I'm as much about law and order as anybody else. Now, we've got some commentary from some folks at CNN, and I thought you guys might want to hear this, just to give some perspective about what is going on in D.C. This is actually, I think, a pretty good idea of what things are like. Do me a favor, folks, and as always, check this out. Let me know if you give me a sound check while you're at it.
Let's not minimize the fact. Washington had 498 carjackings last year. That's way too many. There were 190 different killings last year in Washington. Our crime and murders are 6 times what New York is. Washington is not near safe enough. The DC police union supports what's happening here. The federal government does have an obligation to help keep the federal capital safe. And I don't think we ought to distract ourselves with what's really at stake here. And that is DC's not safe enough, and the president's trying to make it safe.
Yeah, but I agree. DC's not.
Okay. I want to do that again. I want you guys just to listen in just on the crime statistics, the carjackings and the murders. Okay. Here we go.
Let's not minimize the fact. I mean, Washington had 498 carjackings last.
498 carjackings. So you're talking about a carjacking about once a day. Let's continue.
Last year. That's way too many. There were 190 different killings last year in
190 murders in Washington, D.C. So call it about however that works out. Moving on.
Washington. Our crime and murders are 6 times what New York is.
6 times the crimes of New York City. And New York City is recognized to be bad. Okay. So yeah, you can understand why. You understand the why. I just don't like what's being done here. And more to the point, to go to Gypsy's issue here, I don't like that we're not exploring any other resolution of this issue. Okay. I'm not going to go so far as to use the word grandstanding. Now, don't get me wrong. If Trump's wrong on something, I'll call him out on. I just think this approach, it doesn't resolve the issue. And that to me is, I think, the other thing that makes me sad about the whole thing. And I'll kind of get to that here in a minute. Now, supposedly there's been some good results already. I mean, just for example, according to this one headline, I'm going to pop up here real fast. Apparently, they've already done some good. This is from Fox News. Trump's newest D.C. crime crackdown yields more than 100 arrests. 43 people were arrested on Tuesday. This is by Emma Colton. Read you just a paragraph or two of this. Law enforcement officials in Washington, D.C. have arrested more than 100 people since August the 7th. Fox Digital has learned as President Donald Trump cracks down on crime in the city. Law enforcement officials have arrested a total of 103 individuals as of Wednesday morning since August 7th, which includes 43 who were arrested on Tuesday, a White House official told Fox Digital Wednesday morning. The arrests are part of Trump's March executive order, which established the Making D.C. Safe and Beautiful task force, ahead of Trump's Monday announcement federalizing the D.C. law enforcement department. Okay, you're getting good results. I don't think that justifies the approach. You know, don't disagree with you. Don't disagree. Good evening, Professor. Glad to have you in the audience tonight. As always, I will always give a shout out to good content creators and even better people. And when it comes to Christian Watson, you got both of those abundantly. Give that young man a follow on his channel. Give him a follow on Twitter. He is probably one of the best young minds in political science that you're ever going to see, and just absolutely a joy to be around. He's just a genuinely good person. Give him a follow. So a hat tip to you, Mr. Professor. Welcome to the live stream. Ruben's in the house. Good to see you, brother. Whoa, he sent me something. Hang on. My DMs. What did you send me, my friend? What did you send me? Okay, Ruben, I'm going to read this. The DC takeover could be a sting operation. It could be something due to a tip of sleeper cells, and there needs to be a large operation. Right now, this is the tariff or dictator on day one narratives, or something bigger is coming. Possible. That is possible. I agree. That is altogether possible. So we shall see. We shall see. Now, let me get to what's bugging me the most about all this. And I guess this is kind of personal, so forgive me just a moment here. That to me, the comments I'm about to make next aren't necessarily political, they're more cultural. Or maybe it's better to say they're more spiritual. I think Gypsy is absolutely right. All of this is nice. It's great. Yeah, we're getting tough on crime and we're cracking down. Trump's kicking ass and blah, 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 blah. All right, in 30 days, we're back to the DC municipality trying to keep crime under control. And yeah, you'll remove the homeless from the streets. And yeah, you'll have temporarily stopped criminals from causing crime. But have you really addressed what's going on here? Now, forgive me a second. I'm not trying to get maudlin. I'm not trying to get anything of the sort. I'm just trying to get down to real cases here. And I realize that every person, be they homeless or a criminal or whatever, their story is unique. Okay, there's not necessarily one solution that fits all people, but there is, I would argue, one commonality. And that is a decided lack of spirituality. Now, I come from a Christian tradition, okay? I'm an evangelical Christian. I may not be the best example of one, but I am one. Okay? I was having a discussion with a family member the other night. And I'll tell you who it was. It was my mother. And bless her heart, she's usually watching Fox News or maybe listening to Glenn Beck or on the radio or whatever. And we were talking about the craziness in the world. And she's like, what is wrong with these people? I said, Mom, you're working from an assumption. And that is, you're working from the assumption that a significant portion of the past 2 generations have been raised with the same set of values that you and I grew up on. Your mom and dad, in the only way they knew how, tried to instill in you a set of values that determine right and wrong. You tried to instill those values into me and my sister. My sister tried to instill those values with her husband into her children. Her children are now trying to instill those values into their children. We've had that blessing. And this, again, this is my conversation with my mother. I said, but you have a significant portion of people that no one was there to teach them the things that we were taught. No one taught them to value and respect other human beings. No one taught them the value of hard work to earn what you have and to respect other people's property. I mean, the things I'm talking about are just basic values. Okay? Yeah, and that's Atlanta, that's an absolutely great point. It's an absolutely great point. And I'm not trying to be Pollyanna about this. Believe me, I'm not. But to me, we're not getting down to the heart of the matter here. What is driving a lot of the problems that we've got in American society right now is a decided lack of morality caused by an absence of spiritual influence. Now, from my perspective, I want to see a revival of Christian values in this country. Not something artificial. I mean genuine. I mean something that's something that is not artificially created by man. Okay. That's what I want to see. I hearken back to an old verse from the Old Testament. If my people who are called by my name hear my voice, shall humble themselves and pray, then I will hear them from heaven. I'm not saying all the verse correctly, of course, but you get where I'm going here. We got a problem with crime in this country. Boy, wouldn't it be nice if we had a population that respected each other and respected personal property and rights to personal property. We got a problem with homelessness. Wow, wouldn't it be nice if we had a population instilled with compassion that would find ways to help these folks get off the streets so they don't have to live like this? TBA says, do you remember the constant year-long revival at Asbury College a couple of years ago? Yeah, I do remember that. And there have been outbreaks of that sort of thing around the country. But man, would I love to see it just take off. And I'm not talking about the some type of governmental imposition of values. That's not what I'm talking about at all. So please don't misunderstand me here. I'm talking about something that bubbles up from the bottom and affects everything. Culturally, politically, spiritually, etc. That's what I want to see. Gypsy over on YouTube says, I am no longer... we have deep problems. We can talk and moan and bitch, but no real concerns are being addressed or handled. What happens in 48 years? Exactly. Okay? That's a great point. Donald Trump had things humming pretty good by the time 2020 was done and over with. And I'm not talking about revisiting the whole election controversy, okay? And then what happened after he left office and Joe Biden walked in? Joe Biden basically ripped up everything he did. The things we're doing now almost feel like a rear guard action. Okay? We're fighting symptoms and we're not getting down to the disease. And the disease has more to do with matters of the human heart than it does with who's in office or what policies they put in place. If the human heart is governed by something divine, or I should say, the divine one, then a lot of the problems we're dealing with right now, we're not dealing with them. Lack of morality and embrace of mental illness as an identity and suspicion of anyone who doesn't resemble ourselves. That's a pretty good combination. Infiltration happened a long time ago. It was ignored along the way, and we are now holding the infiltration bag, and it is massive. Amen. TBA says, you cannot legislate morality, Brian. It must come from teaching and upbringing. I agree with you. I absolutely agree with you on that, TBA. I absolutely agree. I am not calling for us to kind of legislate our I don't want us to become the Roman Republic. Here is the Roman morality, and it is no. I'm talking about something that genuinely percolates up from the bottom. WWG1 says the country is not yet lost, Brian. I pray you're right. And I don't think we are. Sir. But man, there are moments when you see stories like this DC thing that's going on, and you're like, can we address the 800-pound gorilla in the room? Really? We're here now due to a loss of morals and spirituality. This right here, folks, is why you need to be following Christian Watson. It's comments just like this. The sword will not fix an impoverished conscience. Amen, sir. You get no argument from me on that. You are, as always, you say it better than I ever could. Probably about the time of the Federal Reserve's creation, among other things. Yeah. No, it's just like I say, people are going to cheer Donald Trump. They're going to say he's kicking butt. He's, taking names. We're cleaning up DC. We're taking back the country. And those things are good. I'm not trying in that sense to poo-poo what's happening. I get it. The federal government happens to be housed in a municipality, and it's a unique relationship between the two. And it goes back decades with a lot of laws, a lot of old tradition, a lot of custom, okay? I get all that. But in one sense, like I said, it just kind of breaks the heart. It breaks the heart that we're here, and this now is how we're dealing with it. We're dealing with the implementing of the sword, to borrow the Professor Christian Watson's great line. We're using the sword to address matters of the soul. We're using the sword to address matters of the human soul. That if those were addressed, then perhaps we would not even have to pull the sword from the scabbard. Just a thought. All right. Thank you guys for letting me get that one off my chest, because I'm not gonna lie, I've got really mixed emotions about what's going on in DC right now with this whole effort. So we can reinstitute asylums again. I'm not talking about making mental illness shameful, but closing them wasn't. I don't disagree with you at all. I think you're absolutely right, dear. I think you're absolutely right. TBA over on Rumble says, Rome fell when the government didn't stop criminals from operating within their city. Take heart, Brian. It's going to turn out better than you think it will. I hope you're right. I hope you're right. The professor's got a question of your host. Speaking of a similar issue, I wanted to ask Front Porch, what do you think of the sudden surge in popularity surrounding Nick Fuentes? It's concerning me. You know, let me do this, and I'll explain why. Hang on, there's another part. Unlike a lot of people, like Lionel and Cartier, seems to be endorsing or supporting his rhetoric. I've had problems with Fuentes for a long time, because to me, he's an overglorified toad. Okay, I've always found him to be problematic for so many different reasons. And frankly, I don't understand. In one sense, I don't understand why Fuentes is getting popular all of a sudden. Tell you what, Christian, let me do this. Let me answer that one off air, because I want to put my thoughts together on this. I've got a feeling I know why Fuentes is getting popular. I mean, I'll tell you right off the top of my head. I think Fuentes is getting popular because of the unpopularity of the Israeli government right now. But that just sort of begs the question. Has Fuentes changed, or have we changed? If you get right down to it, Nick Fuentes hasn't changed one little bit. Okay? He hasn't changed at all. I think the general attitudes toward Israel, or let me rephrase that. The attitudes toward the current government of Israel have changed a lot. And by the way, let me recommend something to you from yesterday. I've got to listen to a snippet of it, and I've got to go listen to the whole thing. Robert Barnes was appearing with Rich Barris on Rich Barris's channel the other day. And they got into a discussion of public opinion with regard to Israel. And matter of fact, hang on. I will drop this in chat if I can put my hands on it real fast for you guys, because this was so good. So good. I've got to get my hands on it. 1 second here. And I'm really going to recommend this to you. 1 moment, please. Yep, here it is. Hang on. Yeah, stop it. Okay. I got it. I'm going to drop this in chat on both sides. Here we go. Okay. I recommend that podcast for Barris and Barnes to you. Yeah. Kawan says, actually consistent about right-wing nationalism. Okay. Why are we worried about a podcaster? It's like hyperventilating over. It's all a distraction we have. Yeah, I can agree with that. I can agree with that too. But to go back, Christian, to go back and answer your question, I'm not so sure that Nick Fuentes has changed as much as everybody else's opinion about the current government of Israel, and hence then all of a sudden people are realizing, hey, I actually like what this guy's saying, not realizing everything this guy has said at one time or another. So I think it's an issue that, buyer beware. It's kind of one of those deals. You like Nick Fuentes now? Do you really know what you're getting? Just saying. But yeah, let me chew on that. Let me chew on that some more, and I'll give you some more thoughts later. Fuentes is only saying what Pat Buchanan said 35 years ago. Okay. And I will freely admit, I am not the most well-versed on everything Nick Fuentes has ever said, but his general reputation precedes him, and some of it is very unsavory. We'll just leave it at that. All right. Let us shift gears to a different topic, if I may. And before I do, let me do a real quick commercial. If you have happened upon this live stream and you are sitting there going, man, who are these people and who is this host? Well, my name is Brian Trippett. I am the Front Porch Conservative, and this is the Wednesday Night Newsroom. This is a little live stream I put together, 7 o'clock Eastern. Usually goes for about an hour, hour and a half, maybe 2 hours, where we get together, we talk about the news, we give our opinions, and everybody gets a chance to, blow off some steam as they need to, depending on what the subject is. If this is your cup of tea, and literally, I have a cup of tea, if this is your cup of tea, then why don't you just do me the favor, go ahead and subscribe to the channel right now. And while you're at it, go ahead and share it around to your friends. Believe it or not, the things that you do, be it a tweet, be it a share, be it a like, be it a comment in chat, whatever, really helps this channel out quite a bit. So anything you guys do is always appreciated. But if you're not a subscriber to the channel, go ahead and subscribe. And while you're at it, share the link, hit the thumbs up, leave a comment in chat, do all those things, and just go crazy doing it. WWG1 says, oh, you're having a Long Island iced tea. No, it's not that good, brother. But it is tea. And it's warm tea for that matter. So there you go. All right. Let us shift gears. Got some other stuff to talk about tonight. And may as well go ahead and get into some stuff that's been going on over the past few days. People ask the question, or they we all will ask the question even among ourselves. Okay, who is the most effective member of Donald Trump's cabinet so far? I mean, the new Trump administration is a little over 200 days old. And people are saying, oh, this person's good, yada, yada. And everybody's got their opinion. But I think people are generally coming to the consensus out there among America First or MAGA, whatever you want to define it as, that Tulsi Gabbard may be one of the most, if not the most effective member of Donald Trump's cabinet so far. I would argue it's either her or RFK Jr. And again, you could make good arguments on both sides, which one's really the better of the two. I'd argue probably it'd be like the difference of a nose at the wire trying to figure out which one was better. But getting back to Tulsi Gabbard, and you then have to ask the question, well, why is she the most effective member of Trump's cabinet? Well, one of the things that Trump supporters for the longest time have always called for is, hey, we want transparency. We want to know what's going on. Will you tell us what's going on? Will you let the truth be told? Now, does that necessarily mean after we find out what the truth is, we can or cannot do something about it? Well, okay, maybe. But at least have a good decency to tell us what's going on. And if that's the measure of determining whether or not Tulsi Gabbard is good at her job, okay, it might have taken her a little bit of time to get her arms wrapped around the Department of National Intelligence and the CIA, which, don't get me wrong, fighting with the CIA is a constant thing, as everybody well knows. But she's doing a pretty good job. And the measure of that is coming out more and more with the information that she's dropping. And something dropped today that, holy cow, tell you what, Tulsi Gabbard is just laying it down. I want to pop something up on screen for you guys. And this came as part of one of her document drops. Matt Taibbi shared this on his Twitter page. This is part of a memo that went out from James Clapper, who was then Obama's director of national intelligence. It went out to Mike Rogers, who was the head of the NSA, John Brennan, who was the head of the CIA, James Comey, the head of the FBI, and a bunch of other people. Now, I'm going to read this in case you can't see this, but I want to read this to you. Clapper was addressing Mike Rogers, John Brennan, and Jim Comey and said, understand your concern. Now, listen to this. It is essential that we be on the same page and are all supportive of this report in the highest tradition of, quote, that's our story and we're sticking to it. This evening, CIA has provided to the NIC the complete draft generated by the ad hoc fusion cell. We will facilitate as much mutual transparency as possible as we complete the report, but more time is not negotiable. We may have to compromise our normal modalities since we must do this in such a compressed schedule. This is one project that has to be a team sport. Now, you might be asking yourself the question, what the heck is he referring to here? What Clapper is referring to is the intelligence assessment that Barack Obama ordered be put out. Now, in case you're wondering what I'm talking about, we've been kind of going over this, in my own sort of way over the past few live streams that I've been doing. But take you back to 2016. In September 2016, the intelligence community here in the United States came to the conclusion that, okay, the Russians have a certain amount of interest in seeing who wins this election, but they're more interested in stirring the pot than they are directly intervening to try to get one person in the office over another. Now, that was September 2016. December rolls around, and Obama more or less orders, not more or less, he does, he orders that a new intelligence assessment be put together. Clapper is basically telling his colleagues at the FBI, the CIA, and the National Security Administration, hey guys, look, there's a whole bunch of things we'd normally do with this, but we're under a tight timeline here, so we need to be supportive of this story because remember, this is our story and we're sticking to it. Okay? We got to show some teamwork on this one. Basically, Clapper's basically saying, listen, guys, whatever story we come up with here, just go with it, okay? I understand, you might be a little bit concerned about how we get this story, but this is the story. We're going with it. It's like, I tell you what, like I say, hats off to Tulsi Gabbard. Now, I say that to tell you something else that's going on. And this is probably going to drop tomorrow. And I've got a clip of it. Tulsi Gabbard right now is probably the most effective member of the Trump administration. I'll make an argument that the most effective reporter in Washington, D.C. right now might be John Solomon of justthenews.com. John Solomon is formerly of Newsmax. He's formerly with thehill.com. He now has his own news organization that he's running, and he is absolutely working it. Okay? Now, I want to share this with you because I think you guys are going to find this interesting. This runs about a minute. Here's John Solomon. Get ready.
Elements that we haven't spent a lot of time talking about, which actually was the largest obsession of the FBI and the largest frustration of the FBI during the Comey years, was the FBI's efforts to potentially investigate and prosecute Hillary Clinton for corruption via her Clinton Foundation. Tomorrow, we're going to make public for everybody a bombshell timeline, a lengthy memo that goes in great and painful and excruciating detail all the ways that the Justice Department under Barack Obama and some of James Comey's deputies went to stop agents from legitimately investigating predicated corruption investigation against Hillary Clinton, looking at money and decisions she made. Money goes to the foundation, decisions are made. They thought they saw a pattern, not one office, not 2 offices, 3 separate offices of the FBI. They were politically obstructed. You're going to know the names, the terms, the dates on which all that obstruction occurred by tomorrow morning.
Now, people have been speculating for the longest time. What the heck is going on here? Do we really have grand juries going on? Do we really have investigations? What is happening here? And people have been asking the question, could something really be about to happen? Could we actually? And on this topic, I'm as skeptical as anybody, okay? I'm as skeptical as anybody. But people who are pretty good reporters around DC, people who put in a lot of shoe leather, make a lot of phone calls, talk to a lot of people, hang out in a lot of bars at night, trying to, bend the elbow with somebody to get some information out of them, they're kind of coming to the conclusion this may be about to get real. Now, one person, and he's by his own admission. Well, hang on. I agree with you. I agree. I get it. I'm not saying you're wrong. And you know what? I'm not going to hold my breath because I hear that blue is not in a good color in this season of the year. So, I agree with you, but I just want to play this. Now, again, not trying to get anybody's hopes up here. I'm just saying some people who really watch this stuff are starting to wonder, could we be on the edge of something? This is Matt Taibbi on Chris Cuomo's show on News Nation.
I think there are going to be indictments. I was very skeptical on that question even a couple of weeks ago, but I have heard repeatedly from these folks that they understand that this is not a hearts and minds contest and that they are not doing this for show, and that if they don't end up in a courtroom, that this will be a massive political failure for them. So I do think that there will be significant indictments. I just don't know what for. I mean, I think that's a very important question to ask right now. We know a grand jury has been convened, but they haven't really given us a strong indication about what crimes they might be investigating.
It has to be that. I mean, that's what we've seen with all of these things. I mean, even the Durham thing that just came up, the cases that he made, right? The guy pleaded guilty to fucking with an email. And then the other 2 guys, it was you lied to us, and they lost both cases. So, that's what it always comes down to.
So that's a good point. But what I've heard from these folks is that they understand how the optics of that and what that looks like to voters. And they are going to try for, I think, something more substantive, even if it comes up short.
Do you think that the Clintons wind up being exposed to prosecution?
I keep being told that. I'm not sure I understand how that can be the case, but I keep being told that Hillary Clinton is actually a target in these investigations. It may turn out that something having to do with her original email situation will be wrapped into some kind of conspiracy case, but I don't know what it is, and I don't see it. So this is me, the careful reporter, saying I would caution people not to think that there's anything there yet before we see it.
Okay. Like all of you, I'll believe it when I see it. Okay. And I'm not trying to hype anybody here. I'm not trying to be like, oh yeah, they're all going to prison. We don't know what the heck is going on with these grand juries. We don't know who's being investigated. We don't know what they're being possibly charged with. We don't know what's coming down. We don't know what kind of indictments are going to happen, if there are even going to be any indictments. We don't know. Okay? I get it. I'm just saying, this is in the wind. Take it for what it's worth. Okay? You've got Tulsi Gabbard dropping information every stinking week. You got good old-fashioned reporters like John Solomon and Matt Taibbi who are out there working it. Okay? Let's see what happens. Over on the Rumble side, TBA says there are over 500,000 sealed indictments. Yes, there are grand juries that have been impaneled. I don't have any sauce, but I might be able to find it. Treason, sedition, just the first two that come to mind. WWG1 says RICO. TBA also says Tulsi is laying out the groundwork for a grand conspiracy. RICO, treason, sedition, maybe even murder. Remember Seth Rich. Oh, there's an interesting topic of conversation. Thank you, fellas. And I think that's what it would take. Unless somebody gets perp walked, look, I am bringing this to you and I am pouring salt on it as I'm doing it. Okay. So that way we don't just have a grain. We've got plenty of grains of salt to go around here for everybody involved. I get it. Okay. I'm not a reporter, but I'm like Taibbi. I like to be fairly level-headed in these sort of things. But man, there is a lot of conversation right now. We'll see. Nothing may happen, and if you know what, if it doesn't, okay, then my heart's not too broken. Because I'm trying to be as level in this thing as I possibly can. But I'm just saying, there's a lot of conversation out there right now. A lot of it. All right. Let us move to a different compartment of the train. I just thought I'd keep you updated with what I've heard, what I've been seeing. Let's move to a different compartment of the train and talk about a little bit about the upcoming summit between Vladimir Putin of Russia and Donald Trump of the United States. And I got to tell you guys, I have never in my life have I ever seen anything quite like this. This is the most bizarre thing I've ever watched. Now, I'll tell you why. I can think back to various conflicts that have happened on the European continent historically. Okay? And normally there is an absolute clamoring for peace among the leaders of Europe. They want to resolve it themselves or get the United States involved to be whatever. There's the desire for peace. This is the weirdest one I've ever seen, in that you've got an American president trying to get peace. You've got the Russians saying, we'll do peace on these terms. And you've got all of Europe where the fighting is actually taking place, where the consequences are being felt because of all this. You got Europe being like, nope. You can't do that. You can't do that. You can't do that. And if you can't do it this to this, we're not going to have peace. What the hell? Yeah, it's the craziest thing I've ever seen. Now, lest you wonder why I come to that conclusion, or why I say that that this is the craziest thing I've ever seen. I got a headline here from Politico. Thought I'd share it with you guys. Check this out. European Union leaders sound upbeat after Ukraine call with Trump. They could be in for a rude awakening. A call between Trump and EU leaders gave them hope that he'll protect their interest in any Ukraine peace deal. It may not last. Article by Nicholas Vinokur and Gabriel Gavin. We've got the following. European leaders can now breathe a little easier after receiving assurances from U.S. President Trump he's not going to realize their worst nightmares and sell out Ukraine at a summit with Russian President Vladimir Putin on Friday. But only a little easier, with the fate of Ukraine being discussed by men as manipulative as Putin and as mercurial as Trump. There's every danger things could take an unexpected turn when the two actually meet in Alaska. Trump's talk of land swaps in the past few days triggered terror on the European side that the U.S. was going to carve up Ukraine in a peace deal with Moscow conducted over their heads. A brisk whirl of diplomacy on Wednesday seemed to allay those fears for now. The Europeans came out of a call convinced that Trump understood a ceasefire had to precede any discussion of land and that Ukraine would need a place at the negotiating table. Some Europeans even detected signs the U.S. In a U-turn were warming to a role of offering post-war security guarantees to Ukraine. This is bananas. Now, if you want my honest opinion, and you all know me, I'll give it to you. Okay. This to me sounds like a whole lot of spin doctoring. Okay. Now, here's what I'm getting at. I mean, look, let's just be honest about it. Ukraine, or let me rephrase that. Volodymyr Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, does not want peace. He doesn't. For two very simple reasons. Number one, he's got to keep the cash cow going. He's got to keep finding a way to keep this war going so money and armaments will keep flowing into Ukraine. More particularly, that the money keeps flowing into Ukraine for he and his oligarch buddies, to so they can siphon it off the top for themselves. And yes, that sort of thing has happened during the Ukraine war, to the point that when the State Department was run by Anthony Blinken, officials from the State Department were telling leaders in Ukraine, hey, fellas, can you keep the graft to a minimum? You guys are taking too much off the top. Go check out Time magazine if you want to think it's wrong. So that's one reason that Zelensky's got to keep the war going. The other reason is his own personal security. If this war ends, Zelensky, I guarantee you, Zelensky's out of a job. And maybe out of time. Tick tock, tick tock, tick tock. Y'all know what I mean? His time on this world may be short. Let's just put it discreetly. Okay. So Zelensky's got to keep the war going. But Zelensky is not doing this by himself. Britain, France, Germany, and the leaders of Western Europe have got to keep this war going. Why? They hate the Russians. They're scared to death of the Russians. They do not want this war to stop. And between now and Friday, they're going to do everything they can to gum up the works. I am very skeptical of this article out of Politico. Not necessarily because of the authors. I'm not necessarily saying they're lying to anybody. I think the Europeans are trying to spin that phone call they had with Trump to get him to not do what he may very well be getting ready to do. And that's this. I've got a feeling, and again, I could be wrong. I'm listening to other people. So, you know, this opinion is not necessarily original to me. I'll tell you that much. But I get the distinct feeling Trump and Putin are going to come up with a set of terms. They're going to take him to Zelensky and say, take it or leave it. Either way, we, the United States, we're done. We're done. You don't take it, the Russians are going to take over your country. I mean, look, Douglas McGregor, it doesn't matter which military person you're listening to who really knows what's going on. But I recommend Douglas McGregor to you. I also recommend the boys from the Duran. Everybody who's covering this thing honestly is now admitting, they're not admitting it. They've been saying it all along. Everybody who's covering this story legitimately is simply repeating what they've been saying for the better part of a year and a half. The Russians are winning this war. There are about 5 different fronts. There are about 5 different fronts right now. Any one of them could collapse. And it would give the Russians a straight shot toward Kiev. If they all go down at the same time, it's a matter of months. And the Russians will be on the front door of Kiev, the capital of Ukraine. But Zelensky has got to keep this going. The leaders of Western Europe have got to keep this thing going. Okay, I will rephrase what I said. You've got a valid point. It's not about them being scared of the Russians. That's the pretense. The reality is the money. They need NATO's money. Where does NATO get its money? Where does NATO get its weapons? Us, the U.S. Well, I don't want a resurrection of the USSR. I think that what Europe fears, I will say this, there is, particularly with the British. The British, for some reason, have an absolute and again, the opinion of other people, but I don't disagree with them. The British have some kind of paranoia when it comes to the Russians. Maybe it goes back to World War II. I don't know. But there are certain elements in Europe that are scared to death of a strong Russia. And the thing is about the Russians, for 25 or 30 years, all they've wanted is more or less peace and quiet with one guarantee. Just one thing. Don't let NATO move right up on our border. That's all we want. That's all the Russians have ever wanted for 30 years. But the war machine cannot accept that. In order, to Gypsy's point, to keep the money flowing, they've got to have the conflict. And some of them will use the pretense that they don't want the Russians, they're scared to death of the Russians. Now, some leaders in Europe are legitimately scared of Russia. I think that's paranoid, but whatever. But a lot of them will use that fear as the pretense to hide their real motive, and that is cash. WWG1 says, makes you wonder who the bad guy really is, huh, Brian? Russia or NATO? WWG1, I frankly, after watching and listening to a lot of smart people and just my own observations, I don't have to wonder on that one. NATO is the bad guy. And I hate to say that. It's awful when a person's illusions get shattered. Maybe not illusions. Perceptions. It takes me back to that great line from the movie Spy Game. When Robert Redford walks into his boss's office at the CIA, and Redford says, "You remember when we could tell the good guys from the bad guys?" I wouldn't mind being able to go back to those days when you could tell the good guys from the bad guys. But in this one, I'm not, and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying, Putin is some, cherub-like angel, not in the slightest. I mean, he's the leader of a sovereign nation. He's going to do what he's got to do. So I recognize the fact that when push comes to shove in the defense of his nation, Putin can be downright ruthless. But on the other hand, if you don't give him a reason to have to be ruthless, is he really going to cause you a problem? Makes you wonder. European leaders are ruled by the World Economic Forum. They get their scripts from the World Economic Forum and only the World Economic Forum. Can't say as you're wrong. TBA says, Queen Victoria's granddaughter married Tsar Nicholas's son, Nicholas II. Then Britain didn't come to Nicholas's defense when the Bolsheviks murdered Nicholas and his family in 19... Oh, I did not know that. That starts... Well, that might explain some things. Thank you for that piece of information. But yeah, the Europeans are trying to spin Trump and be like, "Hey, now look, you can't go making peace with Putin unless, the Ukrainians are at the table, and you can't go giving up any land for it either." I got bad news for the European leadership. Don't be shocked at all. And I'm not saying this will happen, but do not be shocked at all if out of this comes a deal where Zelensky's got to give up land or the war is going to go on. I mean, the Russians have been pretty clear about what they want. I mean, there are other things they're asking for. But there's like, look, these folks living in these territories are historically Russian. They should be allowed to become part of the nation of Russia in some way, manner, shape, or form. I got news for Starmer, Macron, and Merz. Don't be shocked if there's a land for peace deal here. And it's basically one of those deals where either you guys take this deal or the Russians are going to take the whole of Ukraine. What do you want to do? Because, Europe can't stop the Russians. Europe cannot stop the Russians. I heard a statistic today, and if it's true, I'd have to go check it out. But if it's true, oh my God, it explains so much. Take a guess. The number of men in the British Army as of right now. Britain has a standing army. Take a guess how many men are in the British Army. Just drop a number in chat. I'm serious. Drop a number. Take a guess. I mean, again, I'd have to look this up. Matter of fact, I'll look it up while you guys are dropping guesses. Guess the number, the size of the British Army. I'm going to look this up for myself. Which, if this is true, oh my gosh. Okay. Take a guess. Oh, honey. Oh, honey. You're over 10 times. You're over 10 times the number they've got. That's close. The number that I heard today, and I'm not, I heard 17,000. I heard 17,000. I just quickly Googled. As of now this is from Google's AI. As of January 1, 2025, the British Army had 73,000 regular full-time personnel. Okay. So yeah, you're talking about a standing force. Oh, yeah. Yeah, you're talking about a standing force depending on whose estimate you use. On the low end, it's about 17,000. On the high end, it's about 80,000. I haven't even looked at what Germany and France is. Germany, if Germany's got an army at all, I'll be shocked. Leftover remnants of attitudes from World War II, notwithstanding. But you get my point. The Europeans cannot. If America walks out of this thing, this fight between Ukraine and Russia, if America says we're done, then the Europeans are going to be forced to fight this on their own, and they know they can't do it. They have to keep the U.S. in this thing. And if Trump comes back and says, here's the deal, take it or leave it, I don't know that Europe's going to be able to do anything to stop it. That is, again, just my opinion, but this is why the Europeans are desperate in any way, shape, or form to throw a monkey wrench into this meeting and stop Trump and Putin from being able to look across the table from each other and go, why didn't we do this a long time ago? Not necessarily the two men, but the two nations. America and Russia, contrary to the opinion of a lot of people in the intelligentsia of this country, the Russians and Russia and America have a lot in common. Wouldn't it be, and Trump tried to make this point during his first term, wouldn't it be better if we could get along with Vladimir Putin and the Russians as opposed to constant enmity, constant struggle, constant strife? Wouldn't it be better for everybody if we could just find a way to work together? Again, with the recognition there are going to be moments when, it's not going to be possible. But surely to God, there are enough reasons for the Americans and the Russians to work together as opposed to constantly be butting heads with each other. Oh, and this is something, and the Europeans still think it is 1940. Yeah. Oh, yeah. TBA says Russia can pull 20 million of their army if needs be. I wouldn't be surprised by that. And part of the reason that they're winning this war is they can manufacture munitions faster than any European nation or a couple or three of them put together. The Ukrainians don't have the ability to manufacture weapons. And what little bit of weapons manufacturing there still is left in the West, Europe, I should say England, France, Germany, is minuscule. Europe has to keep America in this fight with Russia. If Trump and Putin come away from this summit, and I don't know that they will, maybe it takes one more meeting after this. I don't know. But if Trump and Putin come away from this thing with a deal, and Trump takes it to the Ukrainians and the Europeans and goes, okay, what do you want to do? Because this is as good as it's going to get. What do they do at that point? What do they do? I don't know. TBA over on Rumble says England, France, Germany have depended upon U.S. for 80 plus years for their army. You ain't wrong about that. And by the way, I don't think we're too far away in a few years from all of us getting our wish. We get out of NATO. I could be wrong about that, but I don't think we're too far away. It might not happen with Trump, but could happen. When Zelensky started using the mentally handicapped, I knew we were the only thing. Oh yeah, and not just conscripting the mentally handicapped. There are reports coming out of Ukraine. It's conscripting the elderly, women. In some case, I mean, there have been video, and they're easily to be found. You can find videos on the internet where they're press ganging people into their military service. You know, WWG1's got something here. Hang on a minute. I'm almost scared. I'm almost scared to see what this is. 1 second, folks. Hang on 1 second, folks. Uh-oh. Oh, God. I'm being told to be prepared. Yeah, let me give you an idea of their leader. Yeah, I'm not going to play the whole thing, but if you want an idea of what the leader of Ukraine is like, yeah, this is back in the days before he got political. Okay, there's your leader. Yeah. Take it for what it's worth, folks. So I'll go ahead and let you guys know right now. We're going to do a special Monday night newsroom because I'm going to be traveling this week. Well, no, yeah, I'll be traveling this weekend. What am I saying? I won't. Yeah, I'll be traveling this weekend. But I definitely want to talk about the summit. So we're going to do a special Monday night newsroom because I want to get into some of this. I really do. But keep your eyes open, folks, because between now and Friday, anything could happen. It's going to get just that crazy. All right, a couple more stories, and then we're gonna depart. You know, I've often said that Melania Trump is one of the most beautiful first ladies to ever grace the White House. I have also said that Melania Trump is one of the few women in the world that genuinely scares the bejesus out of me. Well, if you want an idea of why Melania Trump might scare the bejesus out of somebody like me, check this out. First Lady Melania Trump puts Hunter Biden on $1 billion notice over false defamatory Epstein comments. The First Lady requested Hunter Biden remove the episode of Hunter Biden Returns containing the claims. Article by Brooke Singman. We've got the following. First Lady Melania Trump is putting Hunter Biden on a $1 billion notice over what she claims are false, defamatory, disparaging, and inflammatory statements made about her, demanding he immediately remove and retract the content and issue an apology or face legal action, Fox News Digital has learned. Fox News Digital exclusively obtained a letter that Alejandro Brito, an attorney serving as litigation counsel for the First Lady, sent to Hunter Biden and his attorney Abby Lowell on August the 6th. Brito demanded that Biden immediately retract the false, defamatory, disparaging, and inflammatory statements made about Mrs. Trump, which were contained in a video interview with Channel 5 with Andrew Callahan and posted on YouTube in early August. Fox News Digital reached out to Channel 5 with Andrew Callahan for comment and did not receive a response. Quote, failure to comply will leave Mrs. Trump with no choice but to pursue any and all legal rights and remedies available to her, the overwhelming financial and reputational harm that you have caused her to suffer, Brito wrote. In the video interview titled Hunter Biden Returns, which posted early in August, the former first son claimed, quote, Epstein introduced Melania to Trump. The connections are like so wide and deep. Hunter Biden also claimed that Jeffrey Epstein introduced Melania, and that's how Melania and the first lady and the president met, end of quote. So, yeah, be advised, Hunter, I don't know what you're going to do here, brother, but I'm going to give you a piece of advice if you should ever happen to see this. Run. Pull down that video and run. Do not think that Melania Trump is going to bluff. Dude, do yourself a favor. Retract the video and then run like a scalded dog. Not that it may help you, because I have a feeling Melania Trump will track you down to the ends of the earth to exact revenge on you. That woman is one of the most beautiful first ladies to ever grace the White House. She is also one of the scariest women on God's earth. I'm just telling you. And I will say one more thing. She's not necessarily scary so long as you stay on her good side. But let me tell you something. The looks that woman could give you, woo, she could drop you like a bad habit. Just saying. All right. One more story and we're going to call it a night. And this one is, I love this one because I think you'll get a sense of the cultural shift in this country just by who's being talked about. The list of the Kennedy Center honors has been announced. Well, before I get to that, Hunter is effing around and he's about to find out. If he doesn't listen to her on this one, he's probably gonna. Melania is a beautiful first lady and a biological woman. Amen on both counts. Oh, Miss Patty is here. Hello, darling. Glad to have you in the house as always. I said you can get a feel for the shift in the cultural vibe by the Kennedy Center honors. I got a story here from CBS News. Trump visits Kennedy Center and announces the 2025 honorees. See the full list. Article by Kayla Hubbard. We've got the following. President Trump visited the Kennedy Center Wednesday and announced the list of this year's Kennedy Center honorees after his administration took steps to overhaul the D.C. cultural institution in the past few months. This is a very exciting project, Mr. Trump said. We're going to do something that will go rapidly, relatively inexpensively, and will make it better than it ever was. End of quote. The president said he was delighted to be here as we officially announced the incredible talented artists that will be celebrated later this year as the 2025 Kennedy Center Honors. He added that he had been asked to host the 48th annual honors this year. I have agreed to host. Do you believe what I would have to do? The honorees this year include country legend George Strait. There's a picture of King George, as he's known to some. Michael Crawford, legendary Broadway performer, known particularly for his role in Phantom of the Opera. Sylvester Stallone. Gloria Gaynor, one of the best disco chicks of all time. The rock group Kiss. So I say, folks, do you get the feeling Do you get the feeling that the cultural vibe is shifting here? Call me crazy, but yeah. Let's see how this one goes. So George Strait, Gloria Gaynor, Michael Crawford, Sylvester Stallone, and Kiss. Not a bad list. Not a bad list at all. So folks, get ready because the end of the year. Let me think if I remember how this goes. The honorees come to the White House in November, if I remember this correctly. The honorees come there in November, and it's aired on television usually in December. I want to say the first or second week of December. So I'll tell you what, mark it on your calendars because I'll tell you what, this is going to be a very interesting Kennedy Center Honors. Lana says, I have one wish for the inductees. We need to have Floor Jansen and Dan Vask singing Phantom of the Opera. Oh, I would give a lot. I'd give a lot to hear Dan Vask. And I'm not saying anything against Floor Jansen, don't get me wrong, but I'd give a lot to hear Dan Vask come to the Kennedy Center and sing any part of Phantom of the Opera. That would be great. That would truly be great. All right, let's bring the train into the station. I want to thank you guys, as always, for being here for the Wednesday night newsroom. And again, you guys make it a whole lot of fun. I want to thank WWG1, TBA, Lana, Gypsy, Patty, Kawan, Ruben, the professor. Christian Watson's been here tonight. It's been an absolutely great crowd. I will be traveling this weekend, visiting the lady. So Front Porch Brunch will not take place. However, we are going to have a special edition of the newsroom Monday night because, like I said, this summit is just way too interesting to not talk about. And also, I want to go ahead and announce something for next Tuesday night. I recently came across a wonderful content creator through a mutual acquaintance of ours, Daniel Clancy. And he and I have talked off air, and he's going to be here this Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern. Some of you guys may know this good man, and his name, if you do not know him, his name is, hang on a minute. Daggone it. Got to do this another way. One moment, please. One moment. The toils and troubles of the man who tries to do a live stream. I tell you what, if you've never run across this fella, doggone it. Well, I am going to do it the other way. Hang on. Again, one moment, please. All right, let's try this one more time. There we go. Folks, Kit Cabello, the host of Hardlands Media. He's got a channel on YouTube. He's got a channel on Rumble. He's got a channel on Kick. He is an absolutely fabulous content creator. He and I have talked off air, and he's going to come on the Electronic Front Porch this coming Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Eastern. So mark your calendars now. So we're going to do a special edition of the newsroom Monday night to make up for brunch that I'm not going to be here for. So Monday night, Tuesday night, probably Thursday night of next week. And then we'll back on a somewhat regular schedule. So mark your calendars now. We will be back Monday night. In the meanwhile, you guys have a great rest of your week. I love all of you. And remember the words of that great American philosopher, Tom T. Hall, when he said, "It's faster horses, younger lovers, older whiskey, and more money." Love you guys very much. Thanks for being here tonight. You have a great evening. God bless you.